Very good morning and welcome, dear students. Today we are going to learn the next text that we are done with. The previous one was the poem. I hope we have all enjoyed
Yes,
the
sir.
tale of
The tale of Kashmir.
the first dragon, the dragon. And this is now unit number 10 and the text. What is the name of text? What is at Benaras? The summon at Benaras.
Summer at Benaras.
Yes. Did you read it in the morning to listen to the audio also that was shared with you? Do you know the meaning of summon? Yes, dear students. What do you understand from the title? The summon at Benaras means what? What is it refer to? Do you know the words lecture, oration, preaching, teaching, message, right? So this is a religious, moral or the address that is based on the scriptural or theoretical or moral topics, and they usually, are based on belief, the faith or law or behavior. So that is called sermon. Understood the meaning of sermon and where is it from? Banaras. There is someone, a preacher, a sage, a lecturer, we can say, and telling some of the good things to the people, and they like it. They enjoy those preachings and implement in their life to live their life happily and peacefully. So that's what here you can understand from the title, the Summon at Banaras. And as you already know that Banaras is very famous. What are other names for Banaras? Yes, do you know other names for Banaras? Who is the MP, Member of Parliament from Banaras?
Morning, sir.
Sir, Varanasi.
Hmm?
Banaras is also known
Kashi.
as Varanasi.
Yes, Varanasi, Kashi, right? So these are the names for Banaras. For different purposes, they are famous for. When we say Kashi, then Kashi Vishwanath, one of the Jyotirlingas out of 12, there it is, right? Then Varanasi is famous for something. Then Banaras is a name that is famous for some other reason. This way, Varanasi or Kashi or Banaras is famous for various things. And presently, the MP there is like our MP for Ahmednagar South constituency. Who is the MP? Our Honorable CEO of Dr. Vittal Patil Foundation, Dr. Sujay Vike Patil, right? And there is the MP, our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. Right, dear students? Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Today I am getting very less response. Anyway, in class 9, we studied, there was a reference for Varanasi, that Dumra, one of the famous places. Who was from there? From Bihar? Do you remember the second lesson, second unit from class 9 textbook, Bihayu? The Sound of Music,
Yes, sir. Sound
part
of music.
2. Part 1 was Evelyn Glennie, and second one was
Ustad Bismillah.
Ustad
Bismillah
Bismillah
Khan.
Khan.
Ustad Bismillah Khan, very good. So he was also very well attached with Varanasi. And on the banks of river Ganga, he developed many ragas that people could not believe that such ragas can be played, with the help of Shehnai. And you know that story well, right, dear students? So this way, this place, is very famous all over the world. And as far as spiritual things are concerned, from the religious point of view also, it is very well known, right? Even Kashi Vishwavidyalaya is also there, one of the universities. So what do you think? This title now is going to elaborate us about. I think I had given you one reference about Gautam Buddha in one of the previous lessons in the explanation. So sermon means you understood. That is preaching. A preacher give some lectures that they deliver, and we listen to them very carefully, and we try to gain our knowledge and develop it in such a way that we can implement those ideas and live our life very happy and peaceful manner. What are your views about it?
About what, sir?
About the title, the sermon at Benaras. No idea. You have not, I think, it read the text. It's very interesting. It is all about Gautam Buddha.
So it's about
Buddha.
Gautam Buddha.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, his
Buddham.
religion.
Yes. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami.
So,
Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. And one more. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. These are the three
so means in this chapter
sentences
the journey
or
is
the
given.
quote. Hmm? Yes,
In
his
this chapter
journey.
the journey is given of Gautam Buddha from princehood to means the saint life.
Very good, very good. I had, if you remember, given you one reference
Sir,
that
a
how
story
Siddharth,
about Gautam Buddha.
yes, how Siddharth became Gautam Buddha. I think I had also referred to one more person, Ashoka, the emperor.
Ashoka the Great.
Here, dear students, I would like to share one more experience. I think before 4 or 5 years ago, ABP News, the channel, ABP News Network, they
Yes,
had
sir.
released, some 10, 11 episodes. I remember every day at 10 o'clock. Anupam Kher was the anchorer. Like many programs are conducted, KBC, Kaun Banega Crorepati, and so on. So one of them was Bharatvarsh. Do you remember anybody? The series of Bharatvarsh, episode 1, 2, 3. So episode number 1 was all about Gautam Buddha. Episode 1. If you are able to search for it on YouTube, you please watch it. It's very interesting story. You will be able to get to know everything that is there in the text. Bharatvarsh, episode number 1. ABP News Network. You can search for it. It is in Hindi. I think not more than 40 to 45 minutes that episode is. But you will get complete idea about Gautam Buddha. Or you want me to play here? It may take a little time to search for, and we may not be able to watch it
No,
completely.
sir, we will search.
You got it, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Good. So I'll just try to share with you some brief account of Gautam Buddha that is available there on Wikipedia. Would you like to see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So here it is. Because firstly, when we try to know something about the person who he is, then only we get more interest, in understanding the person in a better way. So this is about Gautam Buddha. You can see on Wikipedia.
Sir, are you showing that video at Bharatvarsh?
Let's see how it happens. If possible, I'll play, or you may
Yes, sir.
search for it. So simple. 4 years ago, it is there. Must be available there on YouTube.
Okay, sir.
Gautam Buddha, you can see here. The Buddha was a philosopher, mendicant, meditator, spiritual teacher, and religious leader who lived in ancient India. Ayush More, would you like to read it?
Yes, sir. So may I read?
Yes, please.
Buddha, also known as Siddhartha Gautama and Siddhartha Gautama, was a philosopher, meditator, a spiritual teacher, and religious leader who lived in ancient India, 5th to 4th century BC. He is revered as a founder of the world religion of Buddhism and worshipped by most Buddhist school as the enlightenment one who has transcended karma and escaped the cycle of birth and rebirth. He taught for around 45 years and built a large following, both monastic and lay. His teaching is based on his insight into dukkha, typically translated as suffering, and the end of dukkha, the state called nibbana or nirvana. The Buddha was
Very
born in
good.
the
Wait. Yes,
okay,
dear. Here, to the right hand side, you can see an image with the title Gautam Buddha highlighted with some yellowish brown color. Those highlights only you please read. Okay, because here you will find number of things given. This is the statue of the Buddha from Sarnath. You know the Sarnath temple, Uttar Pradesh, India. The Buddha is depicted teaching in the lotus position. You know the way he has sat while making the Dhamma Chakra mudra. That mudra also you can see closely. Then his personal details are: he was born at Siddharth Gautama, BC 563 or 480, Lumbini Shakya Republic according to the Buddhist tradition, and died on 483 BCE. You know about it because here you will get higher number is born date 563 and lower is 483. Like you know, from 0 if you go to right hand side, it goes on increasing numbers, and to the left it goes on less numbers. So which
Less
is
number technically.
higher number? You please tell me. Minus 1 or minus 5, which is higher number,
Minus
bigger
one.
number?
Minus one.
-1.
Very good. And plus 1 or 5?
5.
5.
5.
Very good. So his religion was Buddhism, spouse was Yashodhara, child was Rahul, right?
Yes, sir.
Dear students, have you watched a movie, Harishchandra Raja? It was actually a drama play. Raja Harishchandra, not Harishchandra Raja, Raja Harishchandra.
No, sir.
Was
No,
there
Yes.
any
sir.
lesson? Was there any lesson depicting something from that and his life? Yes or no?
So means we didn't watch only.
In Marathi, there is one novel and the text, Smashanatil Sona. Have you heard about it? Smashanatil Sona means gold in the place, where the people are burnt. In other word, you can say gold in ash. Smashanatil Sona, Raja Harishchandra. This is also a similar story like Gautam Buddha. Not completely, but partially. The incidents and the explanation and the some events, they are matching somewhat with one another. You know about Buddhism also, that how Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, you know, finally decided that they should not be there in Hindu religion, but finally were converted in into Buddhism, and he preferred all his community also to be the part of Buddhism. And this is about one of the religions. Can you name some more religions, dear students? Some more religions? Can you say? Yes, Hindu, right?
Sir, what was the question?
Question is, can you name some religions here?
Jewism.
And
Hindu.
and Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Sikhism, Taoism, Judaism. There are many such religions in the world. Do you know their origin languages? For example, Islam. What is their origin or the language that they are using? Like Buddhism, they use Pali. Hindus, their origin language is Sanskrit. For Islam, it is
Arab.
Arab. Yes, very good. So, dear students, this lesson is quite different from other texts. It is not just a story, but it is all about one's life. You have studied in the previous lesson that how Valli got her mood changed by seeing the death of that cow. On her way to the town, the cow was running with her tail high and was enjoying the life. But while Valli came back, she found the same cow dead, and then she, thought over it much about it. Like Gandhiji also watched a play and changed his, life. He read a book. The favorite one was onto the. Can you say what was it? In Marathi, it is available as Sarvodaya. So, what is the one that he liked?
So please can you repeat the question?
The favorite book of Gandhiji that he read and it helped him changing his life. Sarvodaya, that is in Marathi, but in English it is like something onto the bonds. So I am just trying to, making you realize that this story about Buddha is something different, somewhat. How it is different, how he, changed his life. That is really very interesting. How he became, worldwide famous, how people followed him. Was it very easy for him to succeed? All those things you are going to learn. And finally, you will see how his life was before. Like you remember in class 9 you have studied the Happy Prince. He was not knowing anything out. He was
Yes,
there
sir.
inside and was living his life very happily. But when his statue was there built outside, and there you could notice the grief in the kingdom. And there, that swallow bird, how he helped him, took firstly some rubies and some other parts of its body, and finally helped them all. Even he took out the eyes that they were there. And finally, the angel in the heaven, wanted two best things on the planet, on the earth. And what two things were given to him? Were taken from the earth? One of them was the
The
heart
dead
of the
bird.
and the body of swallow, right?
Yes, sir.
So this lesson, is going to be the summary of all the things that we learn in our life and the way human beings proceed and live their life in various ways. Are you getting? I'm just trying to prepare you all. Don't take it just, how Buddha, the Siddharth, went out, met some people and learned some things and finally decided to change his life. And how, a lady went to him whose son died and wanted him alive again. And then he asked for some seeds of mustard and she found nobody there. So don't take it just a story, but it will be, the summary of all the lessons that we have learned also in the textbook. So I'll just now firstly introduce you to the text, that this text is throwing light upon the early life of Lord Buddha, who was originally born as a prince in the royal family. On being exposed to the sufferings of the world, which he was earlier shielded from, he left his princehood and went in search of salvation, thus leaving all the worldly pleasures behind. Upon attaining spiritual awakening, he gave his first sermon in the city of Benaras, hereby making a lady named Kisa Gautami realize that men are mortal and a wise person should not grieve at what is bound to happen, for it only enhances pain and suffering. So I'll again draw your attention to one of the lessons that you have studied in class 8, the summit within. So what there, the author had tried to focus on, what is the summit within? The internal peace of mind. That's what here even Gautam Buddha is trying to tell us through his sermon. That is the speech he had delivered the very first time after he got an enlightenment. When he realized himself, who he is, what he is for here on this planet, and how he should always be happy and not grieve for the things, being greedy or being attached more and all. Okay, so that way he is going to give us a very good lesson in our life, that how we can be away from the sadness in our life. So briefly I will share with you the story, then we'll watch video and then proceed with the text. So Gautam Buddha was born to a North Indian royal family as a prince and was named Siddharth Gautama. When he was 12 years old, he was sent to a faraway place to study Hindu sacred scriptures. And upon returning 4 years later, he got married to a princess. Soon, they both had a son and they continued to live the royal life for about 10 years. The royals were shielded from all the unpleasant experiences of the world until one day, on his way to hunt, the prince met a sick man, an aged man, a funeral procession, and a monk begging for alms. And there his life changed. After seeing these many things, because it was the first time that he had been out and came across on his way these many things. These experiences acted as eye openers for him, and thus he left all the royalty behind to seek a higher sense of spiritual knowledge. Upon attaining salvation, he began preaching. He gave his first sermon in the city of Benaras. There was a lady named Kisa Gautami whose son had died, suffering with unending pain. She went from house to house looking for a medicine to bring her son back to life. People started thinking that that lady had lost her senses. One day, she met a man who directed her towards Lord Buddha, who could possibly have a solution for her problem. Buddha asked her to look for mustard seeds, and the seeds must be procured from a house that had seen no death. Reinstated with hope, Kisa Gautami once again went on a search from house to house, but to her dismay, she could not find mustard seeds from a house where they had not seen a death of any person. And this way, she also realized that it is the fact that one has to bear and tolerate the death of our loved ones. That way, Gautam Buddha taught her a lesson. Good, knowledgeable people, they just go not on preaching the people, but they teach the people with their own examples. Like, I remember I had shared with you about Mahatma Gandhi ji, that a lady took her son to Mahatma Gandhiji and told and requested Gandhiji to tell, her son not to eat sugar much. But that day, Gandhiji told her that he may not tell that child not to eat sugar. He requested her to bring him on some other day, and she brought. And then Gandhiji told the child of the lady not to eat or have sugar much. Then she was surprised that why didn't you tell that day only when I had brought the child the very first time? And he told that he himself had much sugar that day and till that time. And after that, he stopped eating sugars and then told her son not to eat sugar. And that way, there are many examples about many great personalities like Santa Kabir is there, even in Maharashtra, Santa Ganeshwar, many people, those who have been great at their time, in their era of the time, they have taught us many good lessons in many religions. There are a number of people, even they are great in political way, some are in spiritual way, and some are there in a social way. They have been successful in their life and have taught us many things so that we can learn them, implement them, and be successful. So here, the story was about Isa Gautami. And finally, she was disheartened and sat at the edge of the road, thus realizing how selfish she had been. She became conscious to the fact that men were mortal and no one could escape the cycle of life. Those who are born are bound to die. This was exactly what Buddha wanted her to understand. According to Lord Buddha, feeling of grief and sorrow only increases man's pain and suffering, thus deteriorating his health. Therefore, a wise person, fully aware about nature's functioning, must not grieve at something bound to happen, and only then he can be happy and blessed. So, dear students, that is what here the author has mentioned all about Gautam Buddha and his preaching. There are many things, there are a number of things available that you can come to know about Gautam Buddha, but here we'll try to just see some of the important things, some highlights that have been shared. Would you like to watch? Firstly, we'll see
Yes.
how he became, Gautam Buddha, or how he finally learned a lesson in his life
Yes,
to
sir.
be Buddha from Siddhartha. So that is an interesting story here that you can see. And if possible, you do watch that episode, Bharatvarsh, episode number 1. There you will come to know everything briefly. All the things have been mentioned. There is an anchorer, Anupam Kher, you know him. Let's see now a brief video. There are basically two stories in this text. One is about how Siddhartha became Gautama, Buddha, and then how he taught a lesson to Isa Gautami.
And so the wheel turns. There's no escape from the wheel of life. There's no escape from suffering. Listen to me, Siddhartha. I am Mara, Lord of Hell. I know what I'm talking about. But I've got to admire your determination. You've been sitting there for weeks, hoping that a solution to life's problems will drop into your lap like a ripe fig. Give up now and save yourself the effort. Wiser men than you have tried and failed to find an answer. And you will fail too, Siddhartha. And so the wheel turns. And yet it all looked so promising at the start. Born on the full moon of May, Prince Siddhartha Gautama. Asita the seer prophesied that you would grow up to be a great leader, either a king or holy man. Of course, your father wanted you to be a king and reign after his death, not become some wandering fortune teller. So he decreed that you should live in luxury and never see the world of pain outside the palace, and so never see the need for religion. And so the wheel turns. Silk and honeysuckle, sarangis and spice. Every sense was sated, but you still weren't satisfied. All you could do is ask questions. What is life? Why are we here? Is this all there is? And then one day, you asked, what lies beyond the palace walls? For the first time, you went out into the city, riding in a gilded carriage. But you wanted to see the city by yourself, so you escaped into the maze of alleyways. And you were horrified by what you saw. An old woman, wrinkled, toothless and crooked. A man eaten up by disease, coughing, sweating and covered in boils. Then, by the banks of a river, a funeral procession. The dead body was carried to the water's edge and laid gently on a pile of wood. The family trailed behind, crying and wailing in their grief. You stayed until the pile was lit and watched as oily black smoke billowed to the sky. It was the end of your innocence. There is no point to life. All that happens is that you get old, get ill, and die. But on the way back to the palace, a holy man was sitting serenely at the side of the road, begging for alms. He had nothing, but he seemed at peace. Here, you thought, must be the answer. And so the wheel turns. You left the palace in the dead of night and rode to the far reaches of the kingdom. You exchanged your robes for rags, and in a forest you found a group of 5 holy men. They were naked and dirty, unkempt and scrawny. They said that by making their bodies suffer, their spirits could be free. So you joined them and starved yourself until you were nothing but skull and sinew, yet still there were no answers. And so the wheel turns. A young woman came to give an offering to the forest gods and thought she'd found a tree spirit. You took her food and ate your fill. You gave up a life of comfort and you gave up a life of suffering. But neither pleasure nor pain will give you the answer. And so the wheel turns through birth, youth, and to this moment. It will turn on through old age, illness, and death. It will turn on through all your lives beyond, over and over again, in a never-ending and meaningless cycle. And you will learn nothing. Experience will not give you the answer. So how long are you going to sit here? It's been 49 days. It's full moon again and the morning star is rising once more. What's this? A new idea forming? What's this fleeting thought I cannot grasp? It's there on the edge of your consciousness, but getting closer. Show me. A middle way? What's that? You say, life can never satisfy us because we always want more. You say the only way to achieve peace is to stop wanting. You say the answer is to sit at the centre of a wheel, detached from the world that revolves around you. Only then can a person achieve peace. Brave words, Siddhartha, but they are wasted. There is no one here to behold your enlightenment. No, the earth itself is his witness. She conspires with Siddhartha to reject me. He has awoken. He is enlightened. He is the Buddha.
Yes, dear students, understood something? What he experienced in his life, how it happened, that he decided to change
Yes,
himself
sir.
and his life. Can anyone share briefly? Yes, just some highlights, not required much in depth. Come on, anyone? No? If you have not understood anything, am I right? Yes or no?
We understood, sir.
Okay, good. Now, this was one part of the text that how Siddharth, became Gautama. Now, one incident that is the another story about a lady whose son died and she is in search of someone who can, help her to make her son alive. Did she succeed? And how did Gautama taught her a lesson? Would you like to watch it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Here I am presenting it with you.
Mustard seeds. Once there was a young woman by the name of Kisa Gautami. Her only son, an infant, died suddenly. She went to Buddha and cried, "My only child is dead. Have pity on me and bring him back to life." Buddha replied, "I will do so if you bring me a handful of mustard seeds from a household where no one has died." The woman exclaimed, "If that brings my child back to life, I will do as you say." Determined, Kisa Gautami began her search and approached different houses asking for mustard seeds. She went house to house and begged, "Please give me a handful of mustard seeds, but only if no one has died at your house." Wherever she went, people replied, "We could give you mustard seeds, but in the past, a death has happened in our house." Dejected, she continued her search. "No, no, then I don't want it." She went house to house, but could not find a single house where someone had not died. Everyone was ready to give her a handful of mustard seeds. But when she posed the condition, they were taken aback and were unable to help her. Kisa Gautami understood why Buddha had sent her on such a mission. Her sorrow was lightened. She went back and told him what everyone had said to her. Buddha replied, "My daughter, nothing in this world is permanent. Everything is unstable and is subject to change, decay, and death. This causes sorrow and suffering. The only way to avoid suffering is to take to the process of chanting the holy names of God." Moral: everything in this world is subject to change, decay, and death. Change, decay, and death cause sorrow and suffering. The only way to avoid them is to take to the process of Krishna consciousness and chant the holy names of Krishna.
Understood, dear students, this story?
Yes,
So
sir.
these are the only
Yes,
stories
sir.
there in the text. Now please tell me one by one or anybody. how Gautama, sorry, Siddhartha become Gautam Buddha, and how this incident, just the story that we have watched, teach her a lesson that everybody is mortal. Those who are born are sure to die. So there is no point, grieving or feeling very very sad for someone's death. Anyone who wants to say?
Sir, may I?
Yes, dear Shreya, you can.
When Siddhartha was born as a as a prince in a royal family, he did not knew about the grief outside and was living a luxurious life. But on one day he went out for hunting. Then he saw on his way a old man, then a monk begging, but he was in peace, and a funeral procession, and the family members crying there. Then this changed
Good.
him from Siddhartha to Gautam Buddha, and he decided to live in a forest and a life of monk or something.
Good. And then another incident.
Then once when a woman called sir, what was her name?
Yes, Isa Gautami.
Kisa
Isa
Gautami.
Gautami. Hmm.
Once when her son died, went to Buddha uh, to ask him if he could do something to make her son alive once again. Then Gautam Buddha said that if you could bring some mustard seeds from a family where the family which has not seen death, so Kisa Gautami went to every family and every house for asking a handful of mustard seeds, and she put a condition that if the family has not faced any death, but she did not receive, and she understood the lesson that Gautam Buddha wanted to teach her. So
Very
uh,
good. In this way, finally, we also learn, many lessons that we should never be sad. Like, I remember one more poem, The Schoolboy from Class 8, if you remember. He says that he wished that he should live his life very freely and there should be no teachers, no school at all. Right? But is that fine, dear students, that there is no school, no teachers teaching you, you are just free to do whatever you want? Do you think that will help you develop your life and will you be happy
no, sir.
forever or it will be just happiness of short time?
Happiness for a short time.
Yes. So which one is better? Happiness for lifetime and grief for short time that you feel, or life happiness for short time and grief for all time?
Happiness for lifetime and grief for short time.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That's so grief, and grief is also not grief. It's up to us how we take it. For example, if you are thinking that your study is a grief for you, it's your decision. It's your choice that you are thinking. On the other hand, those who are studying, they realize later that they are not finding it great, but they are enjoying it. They find it interesting to learn. So finally, it's up to us how we take the thing in a better way or in a wrong way. Choice is yours. For example, you are not feeling well, and there is a bitter syrup given by the doctor, prescribed by a doctor, and you have to take it in order to get well soon. So choice is yours. Either you just have sugar and be more sick, or take that syrup that is bitter, and that is finally going to cure you. Choice is yours. And there are also another ways. You will say you will take a syrup, but no, I don't want syrup. And then you are taking, or yes, this is a medicine, and I have to take it. With this understanding, you are just enjoying. Yes, it is bitter in taste, but I am going to get well. With that understanding, you should proceed with that, or just be sad. No, this is bitter, and I can't take it. What is better? Yes? Kushi, how do you take your medicine? Being happy that they are going to cure you and you will be getting well soon? Or no, not at all. They are not good in test.
By
Kushi, what
thinking
do you
that
say?
they will cure us.
Yes, with that
They will
understanding,
cure
if you
us.
are living your life, if you are studying with the understanding that the knowledge that you are gaining is going to be helpful throughout your life and you will be a successful person, that will give you a pleasure. But thinking that no, this is a burden, what are these exams for? No, I don't want it, I'm getting tired, bored, I don't want to study. And then also forcefully your parents are asking you to sit and study. You will be nervous, anxious all the time, and very sad. But rather, if you think positively and the benefits that you will gain in future, you will be happy to study. Right, dear students? So there are this way many lessons that we are going to learn. Tomorrow we'll learn, dear students, with word-to-word explanation. But today I would again like to show you just a summary in the form of video. Would you like to watch?
Yes, sir.
The summary now, both the parts together. Good. So here I'm sharing.
पूजा हाय
हाय
बोल ना
तेरी वो जो फेवरेट ऑनलाइन सेल थी ना
हाँ वो
The Sermon at Benaras, Betty Renshaw. Gautam Buddha, from 563 BC to 483 BC, began life as a prince named Siddhartha Gautam in northern India. At 12, he was sent away for schooling in the Hindu sacred scriptures, and 4 years later, he returned home to marry a princess. They had a son and lived for 10 years as befitted royalty. At about the age of 25, the prince, heretofore shielded from the sufferings of the world, while out hunting, chanced upon a sick man, then an aged man, then a funeral procession, and finally a monk begging for alms. These sights so moved him that he at once went out into the world to seek enlightenment concerning the sorrows he had witnessed. He wandered for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree, where he vowed to stay until enlightenment came. Enlightened after 7 days, he renamed the tree the Bodhi tree, that is, the tree of wisdom, and began to teach and to share his new understandings. At that point, he became known as the Buddha, the awakened or the enlightened. The Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benaras, most holy of the dipping places on the river Ganges. That sermon has been preserved and is given here. It reflects the Buddha's wisdom about one scrutable king of suffering. Kisa Gautami had an only son, and he died. In her grief, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors, asking them for medicine, and the people said, "She had lost her senses. The boy is dead." At length, Kisa Gautami met a man who replied to her request. "I cannot give thee medicine for thy child, but I know a physician who can." And the girl said, "Pray tell me, sir, who is it?" And the man replied, "Go to Sakyamuni, the Buddha." Kisa Gautami repaired to the Buddha and cried, "Lord and Master, give me the medicine that will cure my boy." The Buddha answered, I want a handful of mustard seed. And when the girl in her joy promised to procure it, the Buddha added, the mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has lost a child, husband, parent, or friend. Poor Kisa Gotami now went from house to house, and the people pitied her and said, here is mustard seed, take it. But when she asked, did a son or daughter, a father or mother die in your family? They answered her, alas, the living are few, but the dead are many. Do not remind us of our deepest grief. And there was no house, but some beloved one had died in it. Kisa Gotami became weary and helpless, and sat down at the wayside, watching the lights of the city as they flickered up and were extinguished again. At last, the darkness of the night reigned everywhere, and she considered the fate of men, that their lives flicker up and are extinguished again. And she thought to herself, how selfish am I in my grief. Death is common to all. Yet in this valley of desolation, there is a path that leads him to immortality, who has surrendered all selfishness. The Buddha said, the life of mortals in this world is troubled and grief and combined with pain. For there is not any means by which those that have been born can avoid dying. After reaching old age, there is death. Of such a nature are living beings. As ripe fruits are early in danger of falling, so mortals, when born, are always in danger of death. As all earthen vessels made by the potter end in being broken, so is the life of mortals. Both young and adult, both those who are fools and those who are wise, all fall into the power of death. All are subject to death. Of those who overcome by death depart from life. A father cannot save his son, nor kinsmen their relations. Mark, while relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply, one by one, mortals are carried off, like an ox that is led to the slaughter. So the world is afflicted with death and decay. Therefore the wise do not grieve, knowing the terms of the world. Not from weeping nor from grieving will anyone obtain peace of mind. On the contrary, his pain will be greater and his body will suffer. He will make himself sick and pale. Yet the dead are not saved by his lamentation. He who seeks peace should draw out the arrow of lamentation and complaint and grief. He who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from the sorrow and be blessed.
Yes, dear students, understood? What it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What is the message? Finally, Lord Buddha wanted to convey. Should we have complaining attitude?
No, sir, we should
No,
not have
sir.
the complaining attitude.
Should we just go on finding the cause among the people that they are with us?
No, sir.
No, no, sir.
No, sir.
Should we should we think that we are going to be there in this world forever?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Should we be greedy?
No, sir.
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
And these are all no. Now you tell me yes. What are yes that we can understand?
We should not be greedy.
We should not be greedy.
Again not. Again not.
We
Not
should
not.
we should
No
find
negative sentence.
goodness among the people, good things
Very
among
good,
the people.
Krishna. Yeah. What else
Accept
we
the
have?
natural cycle of life.
Yes. That is the most
Content
We
important
with
should
thing.
what
have.
we have.
We should be content with what we
Yes.
have.
Very good.
We should
You
be
know, dear students,
satisfied what
you
we
will,
have.
you will come across if one lesson teaches us that you should do this. On the other hand, you will come to know that you are not supposed to do that. But dear students, finally, we have to understand, as per the time, how we should be, right? One more story I will share with you within 2 minutes. There was a man who was old, about 60, 70 years old, had a son, daughter-in-law, and some grandchildren. Somebody passes away, in their family, be his own wife, and he was the one, who used to preach other people that if someone passes away, we should not grieve, we should not cry out, we should not weep. Rather, we should be calm and quiet. Think about it. As he has passed away, the day will come that we are also going to be no more in this world. And accordingly, we should show, the wisdom that we have gained, like Gautam Buddha conveyed. But when his own wife, passed away, he started weeping so badly, that the people were shocked. Even, those who were weeping more, his daughter-in-law, his son, grandchildren, they stopped weeping. And here he was weeping and cried bitterly. And they stopped themselves and were trying to console him. Grandpa, don't weep. You are the one who are telling us not to weep. It is very sure that those who are born are going to pass away. And there it happened. Grandpa, please don't weep. The grandson told, requested. Then his own son told, requested. Even daughter-in-law tried to console this grandpa, her father-in-law. After some days passed, he was preaching again the same thing that we should not weep. Then the people got up and said, "You don't teach us anything. You were the one who were weeping, and cried bitterly when your own wife was no more and passed away." Then he told the fact, dear friends, dear people that they were present there, he addressed them saying that if I started that time when my wife had passed away, telling my son, and grandchildren and daughter-in-law that you should not weep. Nobody would listen to him. Rather, they would blame him that time, practically, if you see. But when he wept with the understanding that yes, they are not going to listen to him that time, but when he weeps and cried bitterly himself, they stomped themselves and came to him and tried to console. But he was understanding that he is not weeping, but just pretending, showing that he was really overwhelmed with the grief. And that way, some people are there in the society that we come across. They have more practical knowledge than just information. So this way, dear students, some of the things that we can learn from this text, and we learn this text in detail. This is 11 sharp. This is the time now. We should end. Right, dear students? Is that
Yes,
enough
sir.
for the time?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye, everyone. See you.
Excuse me,
Thank
sir.
you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, dear.
Bye,
Excuse
sir.
me, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you please inform us a day before yesterday when are you taking lecture, timing of lecture?
This is fixed one, isn't it, dear student? What do you say, Shreya? Am I changing every day the timing? Am I
No,
not
sir.
particular
Sir,
about it?
I am saying you. Why are
No,
you
sir.
asking to Shreya?
Shreya, what do you say? Swastik, Gauri Pargavkar, Vaishnavi, Shravan, Janvi, am I changing the timings every day? Or we are
No,
following
sir.
a
No,
particular?
sir. We are following the same
No,
only.
sir.
No, sir, we have the same time.
I think I am following
Sir.
the start and end, both the timings. Am I not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Isha,
Yes, sir.
what
Yes,
do you
sir.
say? What is your opinion, dear Isha?
Sir, I also. छोड़ दो मेरे को क्या
Okay,